anyone who is coming to the US, which should come with an intention that it is a degree that I'm going for, not a short a way for me to get settled there. So I feel that there is that dream of making it big is possible in India. It's staying in India itself, and you could be working with the same American companies and same American investors, and you don't even have to travel abroad to do it.
Hello everyone, welcome back to HigherEd Horizon podcast by the College.dev. Today we are diving into a topic that affects thousands of Indian students and working professionals, the future of the H-1B visas in the US. With recent changes and growing uncertainty, what does this mean for students that are planning to go to the US, for professionals that are building their careers, and for India's youth as a whole? Let's discuss. There's been a lot of buzz around H-1B visa changes in the US lately. Uh, could you explain quickly what's been happening on the policy front?
So there are usually 65,000 H-1Bs that are become available every year, and the number of people that usually apply for H-1Bs is many times larger. Right? So H-1B applicants go through a lottery, and in that lottery, some people get picked and some people get rejected. It's a very unfair process because somebody could be a valedictorian from Harvard, and they may have done incredible research. They may be a PhD student. That person could get rejected in a lottery, and someone from a third tier college, with barely enough score to pass the exam, they could make it in the lottery, right? So the lottery is a very unfair system, but that's the system. Some great people wouldn't get it, some mediocre people would get it. Um, on top of that, there is a lot of unemployment that has recently come about in the US. If you look at the computer science hiring trends that have been in the US over the years, there was a huge peak when anybody with anything related to computer science was getting hired, and there has been a sudden downfall where people are not getting hired. Instead, they're getting laid off. You'll hear news about some company or the other laying off tens of thousands of people every other month or so. We will hear such a news, right? When there are layoffs happening, there are new graduates who are also graduating. The number of new graduates coming out from computer science stream has also significantly increased because there is so much demand in computer science over the years. Colleges have increased their intake of computer science students, have created multiple branches within computer science itself. So more people have been graduating with computer science degrees lately, and a lot more people have taken computer science as their major, which the government was strongly encouraging them to do for almost a decade. Right? Finally, it was came to a point where lots of people took computer science, and they are also graduating. So now, on one side, you have a lot larger number of people graduating from college, and on other side, the number of jobs available has suddenly dropped down like an inverted hockey stick, and people are not getting hired. The unemployment rate in computer science fields is probably the highest it has been in more than a decade. Right? It has increased. Its unemployment in computer science is currently more than other fields, more than other majors, which is very, very unusual. Right? So obviously, when there is increase in unemployment within the country of locals who are graduating, that has also put a pressure or created discontent and resentment among locals for outsiders not to be hired. Because of that, and because of those pressures, um, which I feel that unemployment has been caused by changes in market dynamics, such as AI coming into play, and lots of tech companies, AI is already writing 20, 30, 40% of the code, and tech companies are not sure how many of these resources they will need 6 months or a year from now. So instead of figuring out a way to hire more people, they're figuring out a plan to trim down their workforce. I think it has a lot to do with AI. It's not that the H-1Bs have all of a sudden started taking up jobs which they were not taking before. The H-1Bs have been around for a while. In fact, there was so much demand for them, and there was so much demand for locals also. It was not an issue before, but now that uh, uh, AI is causing people to be laid off, then now the new graduates are also not getting, they're not getting employed. So which is again, as I said before, is caused resentment. I think the government is responding to that resentment by um, restricting H-1Bs. And one of the ways for them to restrict H-1Bs came about with this proclamation that was signed by President Trump. And the proclamation stated that anybody who wants to get H-1B would have, that company who's filing the H-1B petition would have to pay $100,000. And there was a lot of confusion about it. The Commerce Secretary, who was standing next to President Trump at the time of the signing of the proclamation, repeated multiple times that this is $100,000 per year. So he repeated that multiple times. Even though the proclamation never mentioned $100,000 per year, somehow he thought it was $100,000 per year. That created huge concern and havoc in the whole world wherever people were applying for H-1Bs from, because $100,000 a year is a lot of money. That means that's like killing the whole H-1B program. But it turned out that that was not true, and also existing people who already had H-1Bs also got very concerned. Some of them were on vacationing in India or other places. It came in the news that some people decided to get off the plane and decided to fly back because this was going to apply from 21st September, and they wanted to be back in the country before 21st September because they felt at the port of entry they will be asked for a receipt of $100,000 payment. So it was a chaos for a few days. But after that, concern for a couple of days, Caroline Levitt, who's the press secretary for Donald Trump, she came up with a clarification. She clarified that it's not going to be applicable to people who have already gotten H-1B. So all the people who have H-1Bs already, it's not applicable to them based on her clarification. And it's also not applicable to people who are already in the US. So from that, I understand that she meant that it's not applicable to people who may have graduated with a degree in US and who may already be in US, maybe not on H-1B yet, but are there on some other type of visa. So based on my understanding of her clarification, it would not be applicable to them also. So now who does it apply to based on this? After the clarification that they have given, who does it apply to? Based on my understanding, it applies to companies who are hiring for H-1B in India and then planning to send them to the US directly on H-1B, and which would most likely be these IT outsourcing companies like Cognizant, Tech Mahindra, Infosys, Wipro, and others. Because they would hire people in India, they would train them, and they would provide these people as consultants to companies in the US. They would do their H-1B, and that's how they would come. They would come directly to work. So, based on what we understand so far, those kind of companies would have to pay $100,000 for future ones, not for the existing ones they may have already gotten H-1Bs for the future ones.
Okay, that that does clear out a lot of misinformation on social media. For students that are aspiring to go abroad, obviously you have cleared it out that these might not apply to them. But then students and parents, they invest so much in the US degrees. How do these H-1B changes affect students who are planning to go?
I mean, anyone who is coming to the US, which should come with an intention that it is a degree that I'm going for, not a short a way for me to get settled there. And the degree doesn't come with any guarantee or certainty of getting a long-term work permit or an H-1B or a residency permit. I mean, the times have changed, and now degree is just a degree. If you're coming from America for a degree, it is to learn a particular skill you may have not been able to get a course for in your local country, right? If you're coming with that intention that I'm going to go there to study, definitely come, right? Because in many of the fields, the courses that are being offered in the US are still far superior. Or somebody may get admission in a top tier university like UC Berkeley. Its repute is going to be valued everywhere in the world. Where if you go back to India or join a large multinational company or or even a large Indian local company, or if you go to Europe, or if you go to England, you will be that the UC Berkeley degree will be valued. Even in China, you so many Chinese people come here, and they also value American Ivy League plus degrees. So if you are coming for a top tier college, definitely come, but don't think of okay, I'm going there with an intention to settle there, and this is my way, like student visa
Pathway
with
to, yeah.
pathway to be there. Because even if $100,000 don't apply to you, which I feel that it will not be applicable to them, because they'll be already in the US based on the clarification that has come from the press secretary. I believe that if you are in the US already with some other kind of visa, when you apply for H-1B, you will not be subject to $100,000. I could be wrong, but that's what my understanding is. Even if that is the case, I feel that majority of the companies will not be keen to hire people who are on H-1B, who need H-1B. They would rather hire people who are local. As I mentioned earlier, there are lots of people who are getting laid off, right. So there is availability of resources in the country at the moment. So if the company has to hire some people, because they may have laid off too many, or they may be starting a new project, now they need people, there will be availability of resources from recent graduates who are locals in the US, or people who may have been laid off in the last 6 8 months, who may also have experience. The chances of those people getting a job will be a lot higher than people who may have come from India and done a degree, and may need sponsorship going forward, right. Also, there is a resentment among people right now just because of unemployment. Someone may know somebody, or someone may have a relative who may have graduated with a computer science degree, and the government has been pushing people to adopt computer science degrees, or try to complete computer science degrees over, choose this as a major for a decade. Now that people are graduating, and they're finding their loved ones are not getting the job, there is also bad PR associated with hiring a foreigner at the moment, right. So if you have, on one side, you're letting go lots of people, tens of thousands of people, and then you have some amount of opportunity that comes up, and then you are hiring foreigners and doing their H-1B. If the press comes to know, or some you know people who may be bothered by what kind of unemployment is locally, then companies don't want to deal with it. The companies don't want that image that, hey, you had locals available, but you still went for the H-1Bs, even though H-1B may have been other reasons, but it could be portrayed as, oh, you went for them just because it was cheap talent. However, there will be exceptions. There are some people who are really, really exceptional. Say, for example, somebody who is going to work at a frontier lab in AI research, and you have done master's or a PhD in that field, and you are some uniquely qualified for it. So, in that level, and any company will take you, because they can justify this person had a unique skill. And even in those cases, even if they have to pay $100,000, even though I feel that that's not going to be required, but even if there was the case that where they would have to pay $100,000, the company will gladly pay $100,000, because in those kind of positions they pay them sometimes millions of dollars in just signing bonus. As you might have recently seen, people got salaries equivalent to, or even more than, what NBA players get in their contracts. So it's like unheard of salaries people have been getting at these frontier labs for AI research. So if there are people like that who are incredibly great, they will find opportunity. But we're not talking about thousands of people there. We're talking about maybe tens, if maybe maximum hundreds.
Can you talk a little bit about the implications for the Indian job market with the new H-1B visa rule? If you were, we still don't know if these H-1B rules apply to the new students and all. But if your students and professionals can make it to the US, what does it mean for India's own job market?
I mean, first of all, India used to hire a lot of people in India itself to work for international firms, right? Some of them would take up the roles remotely and do that work in India, and some of them would be sent for an on-site project to work in the US, right? So the remote jobs which are done by people remotely from India, I feel that's not going to be impacted. In fact, there might be a slight increase in those remote jobs, because for a company, if they are not able to get people to work in the US for a particular kind of role, and if that same kind of work can be done remotely from other part of the world at a lot lower cost, and you have to compete with companies in Europe, in China, in Japan, and many other places. I think companies are also compelled to hire lesser cost resources for those kind of roles, because if they don't do it, their competition from other country will do it, and they will not be competitive, right? So I feel for those kind of roles, the work will keep getting outsourced to India, as it will keep getting outsourced to other countries also. But many of the people would come on site, you know, to work for Infosys or Wipro, but they would actually, or TCS, they would actually be working for, say, Apple. Apple would have given a contract to TCS for certain types of jobs, and the TCS would have hired people in India, and they would have been brought here. Those are going to get significantly reduced, right? The numbers that's are there already, that's fine, that they will stay, but the
Yeah.
new people will not come.
Yeah. Also, I think from the recent news that I have been reading, there seems to be a certain increase in companies creating global capability centers. GCCs is what they're called, in different places, which means kind of indicates that people may be moving towards getting more people directly to their own companies rather than going through like a consulting firm also. Probably depends on the skill sets as well, but it seems to be moving in that direction.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was actually going to be my next question as well. How would this impact the professionals that are already working? Um, can we just move to the last question then? That this would be like, let's zoom out. We have to speak about the future of the Indian youth. Is this, we still don't know the whole rules, they're not clarified yet, but is it safe to say that the American dream is fading or just changing a bit, especially for Indian students?
I mean, there is opportunity everywhere in the world. This is a connected world, right? It's not the world when we graduated. All the cool stuff and all the knowledge was limited to only the advanced economies, right? If you wanted to know about the most cutting edge AI research, it was, whatever was the cutting edge at that point, you could get to know about them only at top tier universities from professors who used to work at these universities, right? But nowadays, all the cutting edge stuff, whether it's happening in a Tsinghua University in China, or some university in Toronto, University of Toronto in Toronto, or it's happening at UC Berkeley, or say Stanford. The lecture videos for most of them are posted online, so you don't necessarily have to come to America, be at the forefront of any technology. You can learn that anywhere, even in India, right? And if you look at the amount of venture funding that is going to companies in India, it is not less than what you get in the US. In fact, in many areas, it's easier to get funding in India than it is in the US. In fact, you can get higher evaluation for many sectors in India than it's in the US, because the cost of operating a business is lower in India, right? And for same amount of money, your money can go a lot further. So um, people funding businesses find it easier to fund there, because they'll feel like with the same amount of money, there will be a lot more advancement made in India compared to other places. So I feel that there is that dream of making it big is possible in India. It's staying in India itself, and you could be working with the same American companies and same American investors, and you don't even have to travel abroad to do it, right? And when you are at a particular point in your entrepreneurial journey, then any country will want you, right? If you have you seen many people many entrepreneurs are based in India, and so all of a sudden they set up a based in Singapore, and then they become based out of Singapore, because the Singapore is more than welcoming, more than happy to welcome them. Then they decide to move to Dubai, and then Dubai is more than happy to welcome them, right? Same thing happens in the US as well. You come in to this country as an investor visa, they'll be more than happy to welcome you. So you don't necessarily have to be like, okay, I could not get my starting job in the US, then this dream of making it big in the world, or American dream is not there. So you could actually make your trajectory to make big could be sped up by you being in India, because you could start something really big which you would not or be part of something innovative and transformational, which you would not have been able to do abroad.
Yeah.
So it's safe to say that it's kind of a detour rather than
Yeah. In
failure.
fact, it may
Yeah.
be an opportunity. Like all these people who would have come to US, now if they stay in India, that's so much more opportunity can get created for them, and they may end up creating opportunity for others, right?
And it seems like it's kind of in line with, the overall trend that we ourselves were noticing, even from the time that I spent there. It was like Vishal mentioned, there was an emphasis on people taking up STEM, and there was a point up to which you could see that the competition was increasing, and the number of people being able to secure those jobs was changing than compared to before, and there was more competition. While students graduating from colleges in Bangalore still had that sort of momentum from the previous decade, that you could go there and everything would sort of figure yourself out. So now I think it's a time for students to really look at the motivations behind them and what they're looking to accomplish, right? More clearly than just sort of go along with the peer pressure or any other reason they might be making.
And you need people who are willing to get out of their comfort zone, to be in a community, for the community to have new opportunities, right? I mean, many times people ask me, what is in the why do people become so successful when they come to America? So same community in their local country may not be as successful as when they come to America. Historically, I mean, coming to America hasn't been that difficult in our time, but look at coming to America in the past. You'd have to take such a long, sea journey in the sea. It would take months to go, and sometimes the ships will not even make it. Who will make it? Who will want to do it, right? Someone who's crazy enough to have that drive that I want to go to America and create a life for myself, right? So when people who are willing to get out of their comfort zone, they are usually big risk takers, right? And when you have a country where everybody is like that, who has come by taking that kind of a risk, you create that kind of an environment where they're a lot more people to willing to take risks, to get out of their comfort zone, right? But what has happened in India, that whoever had that kind of, you know ment- mindset to get out of their comfort zone, to achieve what they want and have that drive for it, they would leave the country, and now they would have been the opportunity creators for others. But now the opportunity creators are in bulk leaving, right? So if those opportunity creators, that go-getters, that one the people with that incredible drive, in the ones who are willing to get out of their comfort zone, stay in India, they will try to do new things, and there will be other people who will join them. It can create opportunities for people in India.
Hmm.
Yeah. And more people considering, what would be the path of going abroad, but looking at a point of return, looking to utilize that STEM OPT, looking to build contacts and then come back to India becomes a more sort of viable path that people will start considering. And I think are already considering. This is sort of just pushing that a little bit.
So it's safe to say that we can see a little bit in growing in India itself, as in growing in opportunities, growing in professionals, and growing in not people leaving just for the sake of going to abroad. So the narrative is shifting from leaving for success to building for success at home. So maybe that's the bigger story that that the India's youth needs to see. um, Also, thank you for the panel to tuning in, and like, share, and subscribe if you found this helpful. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.